Welcome to someone's favorite movie. I'm coming to you from the Pod Shack outside beautiful Bay City, Michigan, USA. My name is Randy, and with me is the man who puts the co in conspiracy a go-go. It's the one and only Tom Co. What's up, sir?
Not bad. Those old habits die hard, don't they, Randy?
Oh, so hard. They die hard with a vengeance, you might even say.
Oh, very good. They do.
Yeah, sometimes you live free and die hard. And other times you die hard too.
Well, it's a good day to die hard, I suppose.
Occasionally.
Yes. What is going on with you, sir? I understand that you are a little bit chilly right now.
I'm chilly in the basement, moonlighting in the color of night in the basement here. I'm doing all these Bruce Willis references, you know. If your sixth sense isn't tingling, I don't know what to do for you. Yeah, I'm in the basement. It's freezing cold. Not goddamn 10 minutes before we started recording, the goddamn heater was just blaring this loud noise. And I'm like, oh, that's going to show up in the recording. I can't have that show up in this pristine, prestigious studio recording, you know?
We have standards to maintain, sir.
We've got so many standards, and our reputation, like our street cred would take such a hit, you know? And I'm like, do you shut up, heater? And then it did. It listened. Somebody in my life actually listened. It was that heater, and now I want it back in my life. And it won't. It just won't. So I'm going to shiver and shudder. And
you could say that the heater's giving you the cold shoulder.
I could say that. And in fact, It definitely is. Also, my torso.
Literally and figuratively, yes.
Yeah, my entire torso. Cold. Tomko, what's going on, sir?
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
As I was explaining to you before we started recording, I am fully vaccinated. I'm happy to have that over and done with, but boy, was it a trip.
Yeah, you had this, we were talking about it. You had the same experience I did, just like, oh, this is the living dead. It's the worst. It was the worst flu I've ever had, I thought, and was only a vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like a 24-hour flu from hell. I don't know. I mean, my entire weekend was spent either just laying on the couch watching television miserably or sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, there's a charm and a harm to that. There's definitely a benefit to being sick and having some downtime. I feel like people
Oh, yeah.
I feel like people don't get enough downtime.
No, unless you're European and you get like all the downtime you want.
Yeah, I know. That's why we need to be European.
I think so.
Yeah, we've got sensibilities and stuff. We could be European. We could like pass, right?
If they ask we're Canadian though, okay?
Yeah.
Because you go over there letting them know that you're American, it's just miserable.
I mean, I guess that leads into a question. What have you been watching, Tomko? Or do you even remember?
Honestly, I haven't watched a whole lot of new things. I just kind of watched things that were background noise. One thing I did watch that was new is VFW.
Okay.
On Shudder.
Yeah, I've wanted to see this. I know what it is. And when I heard the premise, I definitely wanted to see it. And it's on my you have to see this list, and I still haven't. So what did you think of it?
It reminded me of I don't want to say a B-list version of the what was those Sylvester Stallone movies?
The Expendables.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was a B-list because let's face it, The Expendables is filled with B-list action stars now.
Absolutely.
So I'd say maybe C-list. But I think I'd rather watch that movie because it's got way better actors and far more interesting characters.
Ooh. That seems like a dare.
It reminded me of a cross between like Assault on Precinct 13 and just some kind of weird action movie. It's, I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It's definitely fun. It's violent as fuck. And you gotta watch it.
It
It'll be
is.
a good time, I promise you.
Isn't there zombies involved? Isn't that the
No,
premise?
sir.
No.
No, sir.
Oh man.
Nope. It's basically a raid on a VFW bar.
Okay.
By a street gang that isn't counting on the fact that VFWs are filled with veterans
Of
who
foreign
know how to
wars.
deal with
Yeah.
combat.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you at that.
Who's in this movie? Isn't like George Wendt and stuff like that?
George Wendt is in it. God, I can't remember the Fred something, the guy that played Shaft.
Oh, okay.
He's in it. God, Steven somebody. He's the guy. He was the main bad. It's one of those movies where it's filled with that guy who, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's that guy who was in Die Hard 2 as the main villain. That guy who was in Avatar as the main villain. The guy who was in Karate Kid as the main villain. Except they're playing heroes.
Yeah.
Of a sort.
Fred Williamson was Shaft.
Yes, I wanted to say Fred Willard. It's like, no, that's not Fred Willard.
Martin Cove was in it.
Yes.
So,
Steven something.
Stephen Lang.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can picture the dude's face. He played Death in the Bill and Ted movies.
William Sadler.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who is the best?
I mean, honestly, he should have had a bigger career than he did.
Absolutely.
I mean, the movies that he was in, he was great. Demon Knight, which is a movie that we really ought to talk about on this show.
That's funny. I just saw that for the first time recently. Like, oh man. Actually, the first time I saw it was 2 weeks ago when I was experiencing what you experienced. I was all the flu. That's what I watched. I watched Demon Knight for the first time.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's wild.
But yeah, William Sadler, he's one of those people that just adds a certain something to every movie. Hell, he was in Freaked.
He was in Freaked. In the archives, someone's favorite movie archives, Freaked, a movie that more people need to know about. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he was the best part of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. By far. He's so good as Death. He's so hilarious.
Yeah, why he didn't have a bigger career is beyond me. I mean, he was also really good in Shawshank Redemption. But yeah, you need to watch this. This has Randy written all over it.
Yeah, I desperately want. Ever since I saw the premise, like I said, I've wanted to see it, and I just haven't had the time. Damn it.
I'm trying to think of what else I've watched. I've just gone back and rewatched some older movies. I rewatched The Last Detail, which I told you about, which I would love to talk about on this program. Rewatched 5 Easy Pieces. I've been watching a lot of Jack Nicholson movies.
I guess, yeah. I like 5 Easy Pieces. I like 5
Did I ever tell you about the time that I bullshitted a young coworker of mine when she was asking me about my family, and she asked me about my dad, and I basically described the plot of 5 Easy Pieces to her?
No.
And she totally bought it?
No, but that's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my dad's this, he comes from this family of musical prodigies, and he just didn't want any part of it. I mean, he can play piano amazingly beautifully, but just wasn't his thing. He just wanted to kind of live his own life.
What inspired that? Did you not like this girl?
I was bored at work.
Yeah, that'll do it every time.
Exactly.
The thing I love about The Last Detail, which I know nothing about other than Jack Nicholson is in it. When I looked at the image you sent me and I looked at the cover art, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's Shipwreck from G.I. Joe.
Yes, it absolutely is.
That's why Shipwreck sounds like Jack Nicholson and fucking the G.I. Joe cartoon. It's the same character.
That is exactly why.
Yeah.
No, and that it's one of those movies that's just a great character piece and a fine example of acting all around.
I think the world misses Jack Nicholson.
I know I do.
Yeah, I mean and Sean Connery too. It's a shame that he retired when he did with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, that's the movie that will always be known as the one that broke Sean.
Yeah. I remember seeing it in the theater and being like, "Oh, this is okay."
I didn't understand the absolute hatred for it. I'll be honest with you. It's not a classic,
No,
and it's certainly nowhere near as good as the book,
no,
but it doesn't deserve the scorn that it has received.
no. I do know, like when it came out, I did get the first trade paperback, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I understood why it was made into a movie, and
Yeah, and I can also understand why there were certain things that were changed from the book into the movie.
yeah, because you have to. I mean, not
Well,
every.
yeah, you can't have the Invisible Man being responsible for immaculate conception at an all-girls school.
Yeah, this isn't The Boys, for crying out loud.
No.
Yeah, the book is really good. I thought the movie was okay. I probably need to watch it again because I'm not sure I've seen it since 2004.
It's a good one. Well, not really a good one, but not a terrible one.
Yeah, I think it'll pass for our purposes. You know,
It's definitely favorite fodder.
you
What
might
about you, sir? What have you been watching?
absolutely nothing. I haven't watched anything all week. Not a damn thing.
Really?
I've been super busy. Yeah, really pisses me off a little
Usually
bit.
you put me to shame with the amazing things that you're watching.
Yeah, I got nothing. However, I do have this. This is something that piqued my intrigue and interest. I saw this
Okay.
headline ripped from the news, Tom Coe. God damn it.
Okay, you have my curiosity piqued.
All right. In order to appropriately discuss this, Tom Coe, do you know what an NFT is?
I've heard of them. Isn't it like a digital purchase of like content that's exclusive? Like once you buy it, you own like the only one somehow, but it's digital.
Pretty much. It's kind of like so it belongs in the blockchain family, which is the same family as Bitcoin and shit like that.
Hmm.
And it's NFTs are basically a way to sell digital art or images or Lord forbid podcasts. Let's sell this as an NFT because they're going for millions of fucking dollars.
Hmm.
It's a way to collect digital art. That's what an NFT is. It's allegedly one of a kind or like a numbered run, like a real piece of art is. I mean, you kids with your Napster really fucked up this world. You just had to have that hot single by Wyclef Jean for free, and this is what it led to. You goddamn shits. But I found
It seems like that was a fair trade though.
yeah, maybe so. But it's led to this. This is the headline, Tomco. Kevin Smith to sell horror movie Kilroy was here as NFT. Basically, Kevin
Okay.
Smith is going to sell his horror movie as an NFT to the highest bidder. And I love and hate this idea in equal parts. One, I love the ramifications of this, as in it's really a punk rock move if you think about it, and kind of a sort of new indie model of way to distribute movies. Like, I don't know if it'll catches on, but I appreciate the thought behind it. But I do hate it for this reason. I think it would be absolutely amazing if like a handful of Kevin Smith superfans bought this movie. It would be like a dream come true to them, and it would be really cool.
Now, when they say bought this movie, is it talking about like you would have the distribution rights, or you would buy the screenplay? Is this movie already completed?
The movie's completely done. Kevin Smith would give up all theatrical rights, Whoever buys it gets the right to exhibit and distribute and stream the work however they desire. So I think, how cool would it be if me and Tomko bought Kevin Smith's movie? That would be fantastic.
I'm buying too many omnibuses right now to think about it.
Right. Okay, you have to have the complete collection of the Avengers. I get it.
I did just complete my Green Lantern run, so I'm feeling proud of myself.
See, I just knew it. I just knew
Priorities, sir.
Priority.
And if you've seen Tusk, you'll understand why I chose wisely.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean,
I still consider myself a Kevin Smith fan,
yeah.
but he's gone on a weird turn.
Yeah. Well, that's what weed does. And a little bit of success.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's the fact that if you paid attention, he's no longer really working with his partner, Scott Mosier.
No, he isn't. Yeah.
And I think maybe Mosier was the guy that kind of kept his excesses in check.
Yeah. Yeah, probably so. I mean, because when Zack and Miri Makes a Porno came out, he thought it was going to be a huge success on the level of like the 40-Year-Old Virgin or Knocked Up because Seth Rogen was in it, and it was along a similar lines of those Judd Apatow movies, and it didn't do that success. However, I really like that movie.
No, I'd say it's probably one of his better films, but from a marketing standpoint, maybe don't put the word porno in the title of your movie.
It's
kind of hard to get advertisers on board with that.
That's a problem.
Especially,
yes.
Maybe these days, but even 15 years ago, I don't know. That was a bad idea.
Yeah. And after that, he made Red State, which is his indie sort of horror movie, it's not bad. It's not great.
And then it just went off the rails.
Then he made Tusk, which is Justin Long, and he gets sewn into a walrus costume, which was a premise he read on Smodcast, his podcast.
You can tell that was born from pot. I didn't even bother with Yoga Hosers.
Yoga Hosers features his daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter in the leads, and they face off against little Adolf Hitler sausages. That's a real thing.
Bratzies.
Bratzies, yes. Yeah, absolutely. But still, I consider myself a huge Kevin Smith fan.
I like his earlier stuff from 15 years ago and beyond, and even parts of Jay and Silent Bob reboot were pretty good.
I still haven't seen it.
Credit.
I'll
give him credit that he's at least trying something new. He's not just repeating himself the way that he did in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that's true. I've not seen Jay and Silent Bob reboot yet because I've been scared. I don't want to hate him. I don't want to hate one of his movies anymore. So I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't hate it. I think he has to come to grips with the fact that his daughter's not a good actor.
Yeah, that's something that needs to happen. I appreciate the fact that he was like, I want to make a movie with my daughter. Yeah, that's awesome. Do it. But also...
Film it at home. That's on your iPhone, Kev.
Right.
And he seems like he'd be a really cool guy to sit down and have a beer with.
100%.
I just wish that he would do something on the level of quality as Dogma.
Yeah, or Chasing Amy. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I can't hate on the guy too much.
So he's releasing this as an NFT, and who knows if it's good or bad. I don't know. But I would appreciate it if, like, a Kevin Smith fan bought it, or a group of Kevin Smith fans. But let's be honest, it's probably going to go for an outrageous sum of money because Kevin Smith has a built-in audience already. Mm-hmm. And that outrageous sum of money is probably going to come from some rich corporation or a movie studio. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose of, like, here's this movie, bid on it.
I'm just trying to figure out how a group of Kevin Smith fans would distribute it unless they plan on giving it away for free.
Sure. Or, theoretically, anyone who buys it can just fucking own it and bury it and be like, this is mine. You're never going to see it.
Oh, they would be what's known in the tape trading circles as a hoarder.
Yeah.
I will trade you a copy of my Kevin Smith movie if you give me the, 2.5 hour extended release of Road Trip.
Oh, no. Is that a thing?
I don't know. I was just making something up off the top of my head.
I wish it was a thing. It sounds like it should be. Yeah.
I would trade a Kevin Smith movie for it. But speaking of Kevin Smith, didn't he get his introduction by a certain filmmaker, or at least his inspiration, I should say?
Yep, he sure did. This time we've got our eyes and thoughts, ears and hearts pointed directly at the early 90s again. Our nostalgia isn't just rose-colored, it's a distinct shade of grungy plaid flannel. We're talking about Richard Linklater's Slacker this week. And it was highly influential in Kevin Smith's career. If it wasn't for Slacker, I'm not sure you'd have Clerks.
I'm not sure you'd have half of the indie movies that came out in the 90s without this movie, honestly. I could see how this was a really highly influential movie to people who saw this and figured, you know what, if they could do it, I can do it. And not only that, but why do I have to follow the same structure as every other movie before me?
Yeah, in fact, that was the same thought that Kevin Smith had when he first saw it with his friend in Times Square. They went and saw Slacker, and he was inspired. He's like, I love this movie, but if that's a movie, why can't I make a movie? Why can't I do that too?
So, had you seen this movie prior to this, sir?
Probably 15, 20 years since the last time I saw it. So
Okay.
the first time I was introduced to this movie was when I saw the Criterion Collection edition at the Best Buy. Back when Best Buy wasn't just trying to sell you lame dad shit like refrigerators and stoves and vacuums. They actually had like a large selection of movies and musics. But back then, it probably took up close to 50% of their sales floor, which probably seems hilarious to most people who walks into a Best Buy these days. I mean, if you
people who consume movies these days probably can't understand the attraction of it, because everything's either streaming on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, or you buy it off of iTunes or any of your other digital retailers. But back in the day, you actually had to hunt for movies. And if they were out of stock, you were shit out of luck, kids.
Yep. I mean, these days, if you go into a Best Buy, you're lucky to see a single rack with 10 different movie titles on it. You're lucky. But back then, every Tuesday, it was new movie and new music day, and I was there every single Tuesday checking out, because you had to go there on that day when it was first released, because they were always on sale for cheap. Otherwise, after that, you're going to pay $20, and who wants to do that?
Fuck that. And that was back when $20 is $20.
Yeah, exactly. But I saw the Criterion Collection, and this one was going for $30, and I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And it looked so impressive, I'm like, what?
All those Criterion sets do, though. When you have the really distinct artwork, you flip it over and you just look at this huge list of special features. You open them up and you got this literal book that comes along with them sometimes.
Yeah. This one really stuck out in my mind because it said Slacker. And I'm like, oh, that seems exactly what I'm into, because I was into Kevin Smith at the time. I had just gotten a DVD player, and it was solely because I knew that Kevin Smith had put out these DVDs of Mallrats and Clerks and stuff with all these like extended features and deleted scenes, and I just had to see them all.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin Smith is the reason I bought a DVD player, and I bought fucking Mallrats for $30 back in the day because DVDs cost that much. Yes, Mallrats was $30.
I still remember my first 5 DVDs that I bought when I got my setup, and one of them was Clerks.
Yeah. Clerks cost
Because
me
I
$30.
wanted to see the original ending.
The original ending when Dante gets killed. Yeah. Great.
Fun times.
Yep.
A laugh a minute at that one.
Mm-hmm. I think we can both say that it was a good choice that alternate ending was not the actual ending of Clerks.
Yeah. It just was completely out of place at the end of that movie.
Yeah. So I see this Criterion collection. It said Slacker on it. Seemed right up my alley because I was super into. I mean, let's face it, Slacker isn't about anything. It's about a bunch of people having conversations about shit. And that was right up my alley at the time. So I see the cover and it says Slacker. And it's got Teresa Taylor on the cover, who was the drummer in the Butthole Surfers, which is the name of a band, believe it or not, in real life. And she plays the person in Slacker that tries to sell the Madonna pap smear. But she's got a very distinct image, and I'm like, this movie speaks to me.
What was your first impression when you watched it way back when?
I understood where Clerks came from after I watched it.
Yes, absolutely. This was the first time I'd watched it. I'd kind of circled around it a couple times. It was in my Netflix queue for a while when it was still on that platform.
Yeah.
Just never got around to it. All I knew, the only reason I knew about this movie was because of Kevin Smith. I just remember the poster of it, where I have to admit, I didn't realize that the poster featured a young lady. I thought it was a teenage boy. Yes. I honestly did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when the character popped up on screen and had that voice, it threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was going to be a conventional movie with, characters, a plot, 3-act structure, and it was not that. I walked into this movie almost completely blind. And I could see where it definitely had an influence on people. I would say it was almost like the same effect that Evil Dead had on horror fans that wanted to get into the genre, except it was more for the art house crowd.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm still kind of digesting this movie as we speak, because I just finished watching it about an hour ago. There are some things in there that are going to definitely stick with me, that definitely stood head and shoulders above the rest of the content. And others just kind of felt like they were treading the same line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very hit or miss movie. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is very interesting and it works really well. Others, you're like, oh, why is this even in here? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Richard Linklater, I mean, for the most part, the characters in the movie, the actors are not actors whatsoever. They're just people.
And you can tell.
You can tell. And it's kind of amazing, though, because some of the performances range from amazing to cringeworthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's the guy that goes on that huge extended rant about UFOs and whatnot. He's pretty good. And then there's other ones.
And oddly enough, I used to have that same Batman shirt.
And then there's others that just don't hit at all. And you're like, oh yeah, this is just some random off the street. But it's still interesting to me. It's a very Gen X movie, which we used that phrase last time with Pump Up the Volume, but it is. And also, by the way, Quentin Tarantino fans, this is the first movie that actually has all those pop culture references that Quentin Tarantino was famous for. This is the movie. There's the person you mentioned before that you thought was a boy, but is actually a woman, selling the Madonna pap smear. There's an extended conversation about the artist Madonna and the song. She actually sings part of the song Material Girl. And I dare say that's a direct correlation to the conversation about Madonna and Like a Virgin and Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, right off the bat, they're talking about pop culture. They're talking about the Omega Man, and there's references to Smurfs and how that was all that was all preparing children for the image of blue people for when Krishna came back. And it's a lot of nonsense, but also it reminds me of my 20s, which was a lot of nonsensical conversations.
Now, I'm kind of wondering whether or not this movie is embracing the they weren't hipsters back then.
Right.
I would say maybe the bohemian lifestyle of the late 80s, early 90s, or if it's just making fun of it. Because the impression I get is that these people aren't nearly the intellectuals that they think they are.
I feel like that's true of everybody in their 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
I felt when I was in college, I thought I was the smartest person in any room. And I was a fucking dumbass the whole time.
Yeah, I've kind of got a similar view in the mirror of my life as well, as far as looking back and thinking the same thing.
Yeah. When the movie came out, there was actually a book called Slacker that featured a bunch of interviews and whatnot to help promote the movie, and also just because it was a thing that Richard Linklater wanted to do. And in it, Douglas Coupland, who wrote the book Generation X, which helped coin the phrase Generation X. I mean, that book, Slacker, and Nevermind all came out roughly in the same period, and that kind of like defined an entire generation.
Yeah.
So Douglas Coupland, in the foreword to the book Slacker, said, "People gripe that it's some horrible crime against society not to work in a creepy job that has no loyalty to you and is killing you anyway. Right. To each his own. But I'm happy to know there are dreamers out there on the edge, characters like those Rich created in Slacker, characters out of key, in and out of love, drifting, slightly twisted, still willing to listen, childlike and full of wonder with their world. People I would like to consider my friends."
Now, do you know much about Richard Linklater? Because I'm wondering, is he from Austin, or did he spend much time in that area? Because this almost seems like a love letter to that stretch of town.
Yeah, he actually moved there in the late mid 80s. So in the same book, he also wrote a foreword basically describing the origins of the whole movie. He said, "After being a student at an East Texas university for a lengthy 2 years, I found myself either working on an offshore oil rig, lying around my parents' house in Houston, reading and eating Hershey Kisses, or more and more in a movie theater. I was completely oblivious to the fact that anyone of my generation might or could be doing anything." After that, he went to a Dead Kennedy concert in 1984, and it completely changed his life. He said, "I went from thinking, as I had been told over and over again, that my generation had nothing to say, to thinking that it not only had everything to say, but was saying it in a completely new way. It was a multitude of voices coexisting and combining, and all adding up to something that certainly meant something, but couldn't easily be classified. Each individual had to find their own way, in the only place society had left for this discovery, the margins. I think this is where Slacker takes place, the accredited sources of information, or the image we officially have of ourselves as a society."
Now, this is a hard, I'll be honest with you, this is a hard movie to talk about because it feels like there's so much going on, but it also feels like nothing's going on.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, right? Nothing happens. There's no plot. It's basically you meet one character at the very beginning who gets into a cab, who is Richard Linklater. He plays that character.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movie essentially becomes a relay race. Like each main character at the time has their own little scene, and then they kind of pass the baton of the scene to whichever character they pass or interact with, and then we follow that new character's story. Watching it again, I was definitely entertained.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely kept my attention. I don't know. I don't know. This is just a really hard movie for me to wrap my head around, or at least to again to talk about, because I don't know where to point my attack at it, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
I mean, do I talk about certain things that I think were great? Do I talk about things that I thought didn't work?
Yeah, talk
Or
about things you thought were great about it. I'm curious.
I actually really enjoyed the editing.
Yes, there's a lot of good
Uh,
shots in this movie that you look at it as a kind of a nonsensical trash movie with no sort of plot or anything. There's a lot of good camera work and editing and just shots in general.
and I almost toward the end of the movie, I kind of felt like the camera itself was a character,
Yeah.
almost like an avatar for the audience. And when they were in that nightclub and that student had the digicam or whatever it was that he called it,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the picture turns toward that camera's point of view, and it just kind of goes off in that direction, and then it goes off in the direction of the car full of kids with super 8mm cameras, and then they literally throw the camera in the river, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Again, I'm trying to really wrap my head around this. I'm trying to digest it. I'm not sure what that's saying, but I thought it was a really clever way to end the movie after everything that you had kind of gone through in the previous hour and 40.
Yeah, I feel like the ending is just a bunch of 90s kids. They've got that handheld camera and they're just filming everything they see, which is mostly just them driving around and talking and having fun. Just a bunch of young people fucking around, basically. And I feel like that's the perfect way to end Slacker, because I think that's what the cast and crew of Slacker were doing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was a perfect summation of the movie. They were trying stuff and talking and having fun and fucking around.
The other things that I thought were really interesting, I don't know why, but the guy that was talking about the free weapons distribution just reminded me of some kind of proto podcaster.
Is that the TV nut? The guy with all the TVs on it?
No, it was the guy that had the microphone and the speakers in the car.
Oh, yeah. Before the TV, or after, right after the TV guy, yeah.
It was right before the kids with the 8mm cameras.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the guy that apparently just got out of jail. He was asking people to bum cigarettes, even though he had a fresh pack.
Yeah.
He got interviewed for some kind of news program and just went on this rant about how jobs are going to kill you.
Right.
The senior citizen anarchist I thought was really interesting. I just thought it was really funny how he walks into this bungled home invasion robbery and ends up making a friend out of the robber.
Yeah.
Just a lot of little things I thought were great. What kind of vignettes did you enjoy, sir?
One of my favorite ones is the man who walks into the restaurant to get coffee at a diner, and he just randomly starts getting yelled at by a strange man who says, "Quit following me. You heard me. Quit following me." And it's like the most surreal restaurant experience ever.
You need to quit. You need to quit.
Yes. That entire scene had me laughing the whole time.
Well, the thing that I thought was great was the way it started off, where he goes over to a newspaper vending machine, if you remember what those things used to be.
Right.
And the person in front of him offers to give him a free paper, because back in those days, you really could just grab as many newspapers as you wanted and nobody would do anything.
Yeah.
And he decided that he wanted to be honest. He puts his coins in the machine and absolutely nothing happens. I don't know
Right.
why, but I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. It's also funny because the guy who offered the free paper walks by him in front of him basically as he's trying to open the machine and is struggling, and the guy kind of smirks at him as he walks away. And then he goes into the diner and he finally acquires a paper, and the paper gets picked up by some random in a bathrobe, and that guy takes it, and then we follow that guy. There's a lot of lines that stick with me. There's the one guy that's talking to another character and says, he's like, I've traveled, all it is bad water and bad food, and then when you get back you can't tell if it happened to you or you saw it all on TV. There's these little nuggets of like awesome inspiration that completely remind me of the indie movies in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
There,
Now, that actually kind of reminds me, at the very beginning, the very first person that you see that is getting off of the bus is the writer and director of the movie.
right.
And he's talking about this dream he had where just a series of random things, nothing exciting, just boring, everyday things, just happens.
Yeah.
Do you think he was talking about the movie that was going to follow?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, and when you think about it, Richard Linklater's next movie was Dazed and Confused, and not a lot happens in that movie either. However, it's a much stronger movie.
It's definitely a more structured movie.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies ever. Dazed and Confused
Mhm.
is. I mean, Richard Linklater is one of my favorite creative folks in movies. He's made a lot of stuff that I enjoy quite a bit. He always tries to experiment and try new things. He did Boyhood, which he used the same actors over a span of 22 years.
Mhm.
He did the Before Midnight trilogy, which with Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke, which is a trilogy of movies that basically it's just two people having a conversation. It's a man and a woman who happen to meet. They meet in the first movie, they kind of hit it off. The second movie, they reunite after years. The third movie, they've reunited again after years and years apart. And it's always interesting. Like something about the dialogue he writes and the way he directs. That's the thing about indie movies in the 90s. They were very character driven and had a lot of big ideas and big thoughts that the characters would say. And it just always stuck with me. And I wonder if that even resonates with, like, if you showed this movie to somebody that was a big movie fan now that was like 17, would they even respond to it?
I'd say it depends on the individual. I mean, you're asking the wrong person because I was the kid in the 7th grade that was watching, Scorsese and Coppola films.
Oof, look at you, you advanced son of a bitch.
Well, no. It's just because I was a geek in school.
Okay.
But if you showed it to somebody from our generation that had nothing but a steady diet of Schwarzenegger and Stallone movies, they wouldn't get it.
No. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why somebody would watch this and be like, "Oh, this is stupid."
I can see why some people wouldn't like it. I honestly could because, like I said, it kind of hit the same nail again and again, where it had the wacky conspiracy theories just in about different subjects.
Yeah,
Whether it was the fact that we've been on the moon since 1950, or the oddball conspiracy theories around the Kennedy assassination. So I mean, I can see it, and there are a lot of passages where it just felt very dry.
yeah, and I think part of that is the fact that the actors were not actors. I think
Hmm.
I think a better, or not necessarily better, more professionally trained actor could maybe deliver some of this material better and make it more believable.
Well, also a lot of the dialogue is stuff that you would never hear real people say, let alone in a relaxed conversation.
Yeah, although I had a lot of drunken 20-something conversations, and they
Yeah,
skewed somewhat close to the sun here. They were very close to
well,
some of these.
plus there's a lot of characters in here that reminded me of a lot of people I knew in Old Town Saginaw back in the day, just with fewer tattoos.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's definitely worth watching if you've never had a chance to, take it in.
Yeah, it's definitely at the birth of indie cinema, right there at the starting point.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely an important film in American cinema that completely was like I said, it was definitely a jumping off point for a lot of people who took inspiration that I think you're still seeing today with a lot of people who are making movies with their iPhones these days, really,
Yeah.
where they're just doing it on their own.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the next progression of this movie. It's
Hmm.
filming shit on your iPhone, and why not?
Exactly. I think they call it the democratization of media.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about the internet. Anybody can do anything right now and put it
Hmm.
forth if you take enough time and effort to a considerable audience and have a modicum of success. I mean, this film actually in 2012 was preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
I think that's appropriate.
I do too. Roger Ebert, who saw the film, gave it 3 out of 4 stars and wrote Slacker is a movie with an appeal almost impossible to describe, which I agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although the method of the director, Richard Linklater, is as clear as day, he wants to show us a certain strata of campus life at the present time. I definitely agree with that. You can't really. I like this movie, and I can't really tell you why. It just kind of. I've tried to tell you why, and hopefully it passed through why I sort of enjoy it, but it's really hard to describe.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just kind of stepping on my tongue, just trying to explain why I enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm glad that you finally kicked me in the ass and made me watch it, sir.
You're welcome. A few years ago, in an oral history posted on salon.com, Linklater said, "When I saw Slacker again a few years ago, I was going, okay, whoever made that movie was technically probably crazy, but in a good way. It was an accurate reflection of a time and a circuit or a certain psychic space. There are people out there with these antennas, and they're often seen as wackos, but they're onto something. They see things before the official culture sees it. Throughout the 80s, global warming was an underground conspiracy theory thing, and it's still treated as sort of a paranoid idea in Slacker. But paranoia plus a generation equals pretty much the world we're living in today,"
Yeah.
which is a phrase that wouldn't be out of place in the movie Slacker, I think.
No. I think I'm gonna have to at least watch this again. I think maybe in 6 months I want to revisit this movie.
That might not be a bad idea. I think this is the third time I've seen it. I do have the Criterion edition. I didn't tell you that. I finally bought it on eBay last year after wanting it for all these years. I finally bought it on eBay. And
I'd imagine you probably had a you know hefty sum that you had to fork over for it.
no, it wasn't bad. It was like $25, which back in the
Really?
day it was $30. So I was happy to pay that. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah.
To say, a lot of times Criterion movies that are out of print go for a princely sum.
Yeah, even new Criterion movies are like $40 to begin with.
Yeah.
So And rightfully so. They jam pack them with they care about their shit. They jam pack them with all sorts of extras and whatnot. So, I appreciate that. I appreciate any company out there that's still pumping out physical media and trying to preserve these things. I feel like that's important.
So I think I'm almost completely on board for digital.
Oh, I know
Ever
you
since
are. I know you are.
Ever since I discovered that you get special features with the iTunes purchases and whatnot, including director commentary, I'm definitely almost completely on board.
Tomko's an NFT kid. He's gonna buy Kevin Smith's movie. I just know.
No fucking time for digital media for physical media, sir.
That's what it stands for too.
No
How
fucking
did you
time.
know? Yes, absolutely. Oh boy. So next time on this esteemed program, which you're currently listening to, boy oh boy, we finally had an email request for movies to cover, which I mean, it made me so overjoyed. Next time,
my jaw definitely hit the ground when you sent me that screenshot, sir.
I know. I've been waiting and praying and hoping it would happen. But this is...
And we got a couple of good ones, too.
Yep. So next time we're doing a double shot. We're doing the Skeleton Key and Hard Candy, as suggested by 703 Toyota Guy. So he didn't sign off with a name. That was his handle. That's what he shall be called. So we're doing the Skeleton Key and Hard Candy. And if 703 Toyota Guy wants to email again and tell us why he suggested those movies for us, that'd be cool too. If not, we're going to watch them. We're going to discuss them. It'll be great. Right?
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. After that, we're doing whatever franchise you folks choose on the poll. It's going to be either the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It's going to be the Phantasm franchise. It's going to be... What are the other ones? I don't know. I don't remember.
There was Psycho.
The Psycho franchise, which I hope you all picked. And there's one other... I don't know.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. But whatever.
Prom Night.
Oh, yeah, the Prom Night franchise. So whichever franchise you folks choose, that's what we're going to cover 2 weeks from now.
Don't fuck us, audience.
Other than that, we've got Live Stream for the Cure coming up. Live Stream for the Cure 5. It's the first time someone's favorite movie is going to be on it. We're covering the movie Martin, a George Romero classic, in quotations. Yes. Says
I think it's... I don't know if it's his best, but it's certainly in his top 3.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
Maybe top 2. It's kind of neck and neck with Dawn of the Dead.
Okay. I've never seen Martin. I'm excited to do so. It's one of George Romero's not zombie movies.
It was his favorite of his own movies, if that tells you anything.
Yeah. So we're going to be live on Live Stream for the Cure 5, 9 p.m. Thursday, May 20th. You can see our sparkling faces and listen to our awesome reviews and tones and insights. And we may even have a special guest. It's going to be great.
Ooh,
so tune in. We're raising money for cancer research, which everybody hates. Not cancer research, but everybody hates cancer, you know. So if you have a dime or two, straw penny maybe, donate it.
We'll take those shekels and put them to a good use.
Absolutely. We'll take any sort of loose change you got. We're raising money for that cancer research. It's going to be great. Tune in. Thank you. Other than that, I don't know. We're going to come up with something else to talk about soon. We're going to come up with...
We always do.
Yeah. We're going to come up with a schedule. I don't know. Where can people find you on this World Wide Web, sir?
You can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. We talk about everything from comic books, movies, television shows to which fictional characters would win in a fight and beyond. We're available pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, including Amazon.com now. But if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at The Drunken Dork and on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. What about you, sir?
Isn't that wild that your podcast is on Amazon.com?
I'm expecting some money from Bezos any day now.
Right? That's what I want too. I don't think it's coming though.
No, probably not.
Cheap bastard. You can find me on Twitter at mretailslave, or otherwise on that World Wide Web of ours, Miserable Retail Slave. It's a big dumb comedy show. We're doing some stuff soon. Like we've got our 9th anniversary coming up. We've got our 300th episode coming up. We're going to be on live stream for The Cure 5 at 8 p.m. on May 20th. Yeah, that's right. You're going to hear my voice 2 hours in a row on Thursday, May 20th. It's going to be awesome.
By the time you're done talking about Martin, you're going to be more hoarse than that movie producer's bed in The Godfather.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Isn't it?
No,
We started it with puns. We ended it with puns.
That's the way it should be. Always with the puns.
Always.
Always with the puns. If you like this program, suggest it to a friend. And if you have a movie that you want us to cover, email us at someone'sfavoritemoviepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.